Let's just see if it's working. Yay, we're going live. Welcome. We're a minute off 9:30 for Friday yoga class. You might notice my little Peach kitty cat sitting over here in front of that one side table. Anyway, he'll probably join us throughout the practice. Or he'll run away. Okay, well, the cat comes and goes. Good morning. Thank you for joining today. So we will be starting in a short while with the physical aspects of our practice, the asana. I recognize that there are many practitioners of yoga who come specifically for the physical movement, keeping vital, supple, flexible, limber. And that's certainly a very important aspect of a physical yoga practice, but as you know, the Yoga Sutras tells us that's one of 8 limbs. So most of the lineages I've studied in under the years, practiced in for many years, and then studied in, come to it from the 8-limbed path, the classical yoga. So we certainly will get to the physical aspects of the class, but it's important to become comfortable in our seat, grounded and present in the moment, so that when we move into the physical aspects, we're really aware of our bodies, we're feeling sensation, we work on calming the mind so we're not distracted, especially with what's going on today. This isn't to say we're ignoring it or pretending it doesn't exist or sticking our head in the ground. Not at all. Part of the idea of calming the mental mind chatter is to remain anchored in our present moment so we connect with our higher self. As I know you've heard me talk about many times, in the first 3 aphorisms of the Yoga Sutras, this sense of inner connection only happens in the present moment. The second sutra, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha in the Sanskrit, it is through the calming of the busyness of the mind that this occurs. And the third sutra, Tada Drashtui Svarupe Vastanam, is so that we may experience our true nature, our true essence, and there is a sense of peacefulness that happens in that. The Yoga Sutras goes on at length to explain this process, but I recognize in traditions of the West, many of us, in fact I would suggest virtually all of us, are familiar with a brief mantra or prayer. You may have heard in elementary school, I'm sure you've heard many times throughout your life, and I wanted to share it with us today because it came up on a friend's newsfeed this week, that he was feeling really really troubled by all the news, watching the mainstream news media, all the stories that are going on, feeling this sense of helplessness. That's understandable. It's easy to feel like we have no control. Interesting, in the yoga communities, there's a lot of talk about it's the realization we never had control. So that's a wake-up call for some that thought we had a sense of control on things ever in our life. But the prayer, or if you're not one of the faith-based tradition, if you take exception with that sort of word, just think of it as a wish, a mantra. But it's known as the Serenity Prayer. In many versions, it starts with the word God. Again, if you're not someone who has a faith-based tradition, you can leave that word out. And I just want to remind us all of it. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. In times like like this, when there can be a sense of hopelessness, a sense of despair of what is happening, it is still possible to find a sense of peace, serenity with what is as it is. Again, as I mentioned earlier, that isn't about denying what exists, but it's recognizing those things that we don't have any power over, that we can't change. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. And that doesn't lead us to a position of saying, oh, well, there's nothing I can do about it, and c'est la vie. Because the second stanza of this mantra, prayer, is grant me the courage to change the things that I can. And of course, the third, the wisdom to know the difference. But what I want to focus on is the first aspect of this. There are things we don't have control over and we can't change. And if we just get mired in all the horrible things going on, then we'll just be in a terrible state. There is an opportunity here to still find a sense of grace within, a sense of serenity and peacefulness, while we still maintain a sense of compassion for the struggle that so many people are going through right now. The sense of loss, the grief. Maintaining an open heart, but not letting it eat you up. So let's just spend a few moments to bring the attention inward. Feel your seat, sense of groundedness through the pelvic region. Feel a lift through the spinal column. Let the shoulders relax, the shoulder heads, the arms resting on the thighs. Maintaining the chin to be parallel with the floor. And closing the eyes to bring the attention inward. And again, if that's not comfortable for you, just have a soft, gentle gaze down to the floor a few feet in front of your seat. And really begin to bring the awareness to the breath, this life-sustaining force that carries us through all the days of our lives. From the very moment we enter this world until a future time when we will leave it, this oxygen sustains us. You can actually also envision that you're sending breath to any area in the body that has a sense of sensation, tightness maybe, tension, any spot of might feel uncomfortable. So while of course the breath comes through our nasal passage into our lungs, it doesn't stop there, but rather through the circulatory system, reaching through the capillaries, coming to every cell of our body. Eventually, the breath you are taking right now will reach every aspect of your forearm. So it can be a useful tool to envision that breath reaching any spot where you may have some discomfort or sensation. So recognize as you sit for a few moments to pay attention to the breath that thoughts may come. Totally normal, totally understandable. We're not trying to stop them. That isn't the purpose of meditation, to stop and push thoughts away. It's to be at peace with what happens as it happens. So if a thought comes, just acknowledge it. Oh, there's a thought, and let it go. The being at peace includes let it go. Not anchoring on to a thought and holding on to it and getting mired in it. keep bringing awareness back to the breath. Let's go ahead and bring our palms pressing gently together. Let's bring the thumbs toward the heart center. Anjali Mudra. Just resting with the hands at the cradle, the altar of the heart. Perhaps setting an intention for your practice, something you can carry with you throughout our time together today. If anything springs into mind. If nothing does, that's fine. I might offer for your consideration that sense of acceptance I spoke about in the opening part. I am at peace with myself as I am, the other as they are, and the world as it is. So in this sense, the word peace means a state of acceptance of what is. I'm at peace with myself as I am, the other as they are, and the world as it is. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. We're going to actually begin in standing today. So find your way up. You might want to clear off your block if you have any bolster or props that you were using. And find a sense of groundedness through the feet. You're keeping the feet about hip width apart, pointing directly forward to start. Root down through the four corners of the feet. Engage the musculature. So gentle hugging of the muscles to the bone. Feel a lift through the spinal column. Again, the chin parallel with the floor. And you imagine there's a string coming up the crown of the head to gently lift you upward toward the ceiling. Next, I want us to open our shoulders here. So we're actually going to rotate the humerus. Notice what's happening in the scapula of the back body. This causes the palms to come facing forward. Creates also a broadness and opening through the upper chest, the clavicles separating apart from one another as the scapula come together in the back body. Engage the muscles of the arm, hugging them to the bone. Mountain pose, Tadasana. Beautiful. So letting that relax a little bit, we're going to take our legs about 3 feet apart. So probably approximately the feet are underneath the shoulders. The feet turn in slightly, the toes turning in slightly. You'll notice a little activation in the hips here. We're going to go ahead and take the arms out to the side at shoulder height. And then bringing the hands together in front of us and back to heart center. Now as you inhale, take the arms out in front of you and open them out to the side. And exhale, bringing the hands back together in front of you and bringing the hands to heart center. Again, inhale the arms out in front, really reach and extend them, and then out to the side. On the exhale, you're going to bring the hands back together in front of you and bring the hands in toward heart center. A couple more times like this with the breath. Inhale the arms forward and then apart. Exhale, bring the hands together and then in toward heart center. One more, flow with the rhythm of your breath. Just going to take off this top layer here. Taking the arms out to the side on the inhale. On the exhale, bringing the hands back together and toward heart center. Now as we again take the hands out in front of us and out to shoulder height, we're going to hold here and pause, 5-pointed star. And now turn your right foot to face the short end of the mat, perpendicular. And we're going to begin to bend that knee and come to warrior two. Now we want to make sure that this forward knee doesn't come ahead of the ankle. So if you notice that happens, realign and reposition. You can walk the foot further forward. You want the shin bone parallel with the floor. Really important for protecting the knee, also rippling up the thigh bone and into the hip joint. Root down through the four corners of the foot here. This is warrior two. Reach and extend the arms in opposite direction. And now turn the gaze over the forward middle finger. You actually have more weight rooting down through the outer edge of the back foot than in the front foot. So check the center of gravity is coming further back than leaning forward. That may mean also keeping the torso perpendicular to the floor, maintaining the arms out, shoulder height. We'll go ahead and straighten that right leg, turn it back forward toward the long edge of the mat, and now turn the left foot toward the short edge of the mat and sink it again down to warrior two. So again, the knee directly over the ankle, more weight on the outer edge of the back foot. Reach and extend the arms, turn the gaze over the forward hand. Again, checking in with sensation in the body. Envision sending breath there. Just be conscious of any thoughts that are coming and allow yourself to remain anchored in the present moment and not become distracted and pulled away with thoughts that may occur. I should say will occur. It's going to happen. Thoughts will come. Bring yourself back into the body, feeling sensation, feeling the breath. Straightening that left leg, turn it back toward the front edge of the mat. If the arms grow tired, you can take a break by swooping them down and swooping them back up. So feel free to do that whenever you need to. And as with every yoga class, modify as needed. For some, you may need to bring the legs closer in together. That's perfectly fine. Others, you might want to take them further apart. This is your class, so you practice how is appropriate for your body today. Let's go ahead and turn the right foot out again toward the short edge of the mat, sinking down into warrior two again. As you rotate the forward hand, raising it up to the ceiling, drop the back palm onto the back thigh. Reach and extend the forward arm up and overhead. Feel as if it's lifting the entire torso upward out of the pelvis. Anytime the arms are raised, you're welcome to turn the gaze up to them. However, this isn't optimal for everyone. If you have any tightness or tension in the back of your neck, just keep the chin parallel to the floor and gaze straight forward. So we're going to transition toward warrior side angle. As we bring the arms back through warrior two, we're going to bend the forward arm, rest the elbow on the thigh, and raise the other arm overhead. To begin with, pause with it here so that you take this left shoulder toward the wall behind you. If you observe that shoulder coming forward and the torso starting to turn toward the ground, you can back up and just bring the palm onto the thigh. We want to keep that openness, the barrel of the chest turned toward the wall in front of you. Then you can bring the arm alongside the ear. You bring one straight line from the outer edge of the back foot through the entire side body and out the fingertips overhead. Option to bring the straight arm on the inside of the leg. If you do this, adduction here, press the back of the arm into the leg and the leg back into the arm. Sense of ease and steadiness. There's more weight on that back foot, if you can believe it, than the front foot. Some people actually bring the arms out like as if you're holding a ball. This will really inform that you are not collapsing the weight into the front leg. Just an option. And we're going to transition toward triangle. So as you straighten the forward leg, bring your left arm down toward the front of the mat and circle it all the way around and up overhead. Notice again the left shoulder open toward the back wall. We want to prevent crunching down here. It's not about reaching the floor, it's about keeping the ribs knitted together. So if you notice that the ribs are becoming contracted here, raise up higher to keep this long line through the body. If it's too much sensation for the upper arm, you can bend at the elbow and bring the hand to the small of the back. A slight inward rotation of your right leg with a little more weight on the big toe mound than the outer knife edge of the foot. If the arm is bent, go ahead and straighten it momentarily to lift from the upper fingers and bring yourself back down into Warrior Two. And now we'll straighten that right leg again, turn it toward the front edge of the mat, and we'll repeat on the opposite side. Turn the left leg back to the back edge of the mat and sink down toward Warrior Two. Gazing over the forward middle finger. Reach and extend the arms in opposite direction. There is still that imaginary string coming out of the crown of the head, gently lifting it up toward the ceiling. Make sure you're not crunching into the toes of the left foot. You're rooting down through four corners of the foot, inside and outside edges of the heel, and then the big toe mound, just the mound of the foot just behind the big toe and just behind the little toe. Squarely rooted down there. Keep breathing. Feel sensation in the body. Just checking the quality and state of the mind. We'll prepare to come toward warrior side angle. You can bend that elbow, rest it on the thigh, and raise the right arm directly overhead just to pause and check that you're opening the shoulder to the wall behind you. Perfectly fine to stay here. Perfectly fine to raise up and just rest the palm on the thigh. Other option, bring the arm alongside the ear. And again, a straight line running through the entire body. And then again, the option of the forward arm to straighten it and press it into the forward leg. Hold here. Steadiness of mind. Modify this practice whenever you need to. You can always back up. If you find you've gone beyond your edge, just back up. Straighten the forward leg, lowering the raised arm down toward the front of the mat, circling it all the way around like the arms of a clock, fingertips up overhead. Well, there's an indication of how long I've been practicing yoga. Who still has a clock with arms on it? Reach and extend the fingertips in opposite direction. Slight inward rotation of that forward leg. Rooting down through the back foot. Steadiness of mind. Lift from the upper fingers to come back into Warrior Two. Gazing over the forward middle finger. Straightening that forward leg, let's turn it back to the front into the mat. And we'll go ahead and rest the palms onto the thighs. So we're going to come toward a hanging forward fold. It's important in any sort of fold to engage the deep core abdominal muscles, the transverse abdominis, just below the belly button. I know you often hear this described as pull the belly button toward the back spine. This is a superficial way of understanding this. We really want to engage deeply the core muscles. Beautiful. We're going to start to come toward a hanging forward fold by hinging at the hip crease. Remember to bend the knees if you've got tightness in the back of the legs or the back, low back. Come toward parallel with the floor. So your crown of the head is reaching directly forward, elongating the spine because the sits bones are going to the wall behind you and you're rooting down through the four corners of each foot. Pausing here. As you continue hinging at the hips, let the hands start to slide down the legs. They might
stop partway down the legs, perhaps they reach the ankles, or maybe you want to bring peace fingers around the big toes. If you either grab the ankles or you have peace fingers around the big toes, you bend the elbows going up toward the ceiling. You're bringing the crown of the head down toward the mat. Keep breathing. Keep checking on the state of the mind, letting those thoughts slide by as they come in. Being at peace with what is as it is. We're going to take the right hand and place it down right underneath the face. Now, for some people, your palm reaches the mat. If not, it can actually assist to put it on a fist, or maybe even tented fingers. And we're going to open the left arm out to the side, the shoulder overhead, and then raise the arm. This is an option. You can also, again, bend at the elbow and rest the hand on the small of the back. A little bit of a lateral twist here. The hands on the small of the back, take it off. We're going to lower that hand down, place it where the other one was, and now open the right shoulder out to the side. Again, either overhead or on the small of the back. And if the arm's overhead, begin to lower it down. If it's on the back, take it down to the ground again. We'll bring the hands back to the hip crease. With an engaged core, slowly lifting out of this pose to come up toward standing. Release the hands. We'll heel toe the feet together, so just bringing the legs in to come underneath you. So just a reminder, you often hear me talk about yoga as your practice, modify as you need to, and sometimes we talk about the edge. And I recognize for people perhaps not regular practitioners of yoga, that might not make a lot of sense. What I'm getting at when I talk about the edge is going to maybe 70 or 80% of your ability. We're never going to 100%. Just like Usain Bolt wouldn't train at 100% of his racing speed. We train at a slower rate. So if you're holding any pose, for example, Warrior 2, go to where you can maintain that, you're feeling sensation, you can maintain the breath, 70 to 80% effort, so that you're feeling some sensation, that we're working the body, keeping it vital and supple. But if we go beyond our limit, down to a point where we start to struggle and the breath becomes labored, that's an indication we've gone beyond our edge, and at any point you can back up. Conversely, if I take a stance for myself that's not to 70 or 80%, well, I guess it's better than being on the couch, but it also might allow a chance for the mind to become more engrossed in thought and taken away. So this part of the rationale behind going to that level is, again, really feeling connection in the body. Beautiful. So, okay, excellent. I don't know if you can actually see the cat in the bottom of the frame here, but he's being a little rambunctious at the moment, so just ignore him. Excellent. Great, we're going to come toward a balancing pose again. I want to introduce again Vrikshasana, or tree pose. There's two elements that we're looking to focus on here. It's the active engagement of the standing leg, hugging the muscles to the bone and keeping that upward lift. And then the openness of the hips. So the hips are going to come toward 90-degree angle. For some, that might be constriction and not possible. That's okay. For those who can come toward 90-degree angle, maintaining that so that if you go to a different variation of it, you don't have the knees start to come in and close that angle. So we're going to start on the right foot, rooting down. I want to make a mention about sides here because, to be honest with you, I don't recall how it's working with Facebook. When I talk about a particular side, it might look different to you than what I'm doing because I think it mirrors this. So as a yoga teacher, I normally mirror my class, and when I'm saying the right side to people, I'm using my left. However, with Facebook turning things around, it's just confounding me. So perhaps better to listen to what's being said than trying to follow along, because if you switch halfway through, you might end up finding it's confusing or doing the same side twice. So probably a good option to follow along with what is said. So root down through the four corners of the right foot and engage that leg by hug the muscles to the bone and lift onto the tip toes of the left leg, the knee bend. And now again, open that hip. So that's where we're looking for that 90-degree angle. So if I came from the side, you see it comes toward a 90-degree angle. Find a sense of steadiness here, pressing the heel in just above the ankle. So this is a perfectly fine variation of tree if this is your level, comfort level. Then you can stay here. If you're inclined to take the leg off the ground, you can press the sole of the foot into the calf. And then another option is to bring the sole of the foot onto the inner thigh. But we always want to avoid putting it directly on the knee as there's too much potential for injury there. So don't place the foot on the knee. So regardless of where you place the foot, again, see if you can keep the hips open and keep the integrity of the standing leg. Then allow the hands to come where they're called to. For many, you might find that appropriate at heart center, Anjali Mudra. Some people like to take the arms up alongside the ears, describing it like branches of a tree, which is appropriate for tree pose. And if you choose to take temple, you want to have a straight arm here. So we don't want to take temple with a bent arm. Bent arm's fine in this branch position. Temple, straighten the arm and really lift the scapula, interlacing the fingers and the pointer finger going directly up to the ceiling. Keep rooting down through the standing foot and an openness in the legs. And perhaps utilizing a non-moving focal point on the ground a few feet in front of you to focus your gaze on. But recognizing that the sense of concentration is a light ease, the drishti. So it's not a glaring focal. That actually takes me out of demonstrating that can take me out of that sense of inner peace. It's a soft, gentle gaze. We call it drishti. As you release the hands, go ahead and release the leg and move in any complementary way, maybe shaking that left leg out. Sometimes it's releasing the standing leg can feel nice. So just a little bit of motion just to bring a sense of comfort and ease. As we prepare to move to the opposite side, this time as you root down through your right foot or your opposite foot, whichever one you used previously, come on the tiptoes of the left foot. Once again, open the hip out to the side. Maintain the integrity of the standing leg. So again, if you choose to raise the foot, if the leg goes out, just back up and bring the foot to the ground again. If you choose to raise the leg and the knee comes forward, then back up and work on opening the hips. Wherever you land, if the foot is on the leg, you want to push those two together. The leg pushes into the foot as the foot pushes into the leg. And that fires up that adduction. You notice it more in the hip flexors. And again, let the hands come to where feels appropriate. Part of that focusing on the sensation, the body will guide you where is appropriate for you. Finding that drishti, maybe utilizing a non-moving focal point. I'll just mention for those practitioners who in a seated pose practice either lotus or half lotus. It's always an option in tree pose to come to half lotus. I do not recommend this if you don't practice half lotus or lotus in seated. And if you do, you definitely want to make sure that the knee is lower than the hip. And we'll just demonstrate temporarily for those who are accustomed to practicing half lotus. Again, maintaining the standing leg. And it's really not about getting anywhere, it's about feeling the sensation in your body. Beautiful, allowing the hands to come down, releasing that leg and moving it in any complementary manner. So just a quick word again about that. It's not about, oh, I gotta get to the next level. Bring the leg up, the foot on the calf, or bring it on the thigh, or go into half lotus. If it comes at the expense of remaining anchored in the present moment, then definitely back up. That is beyond your edge. So, or if there's a loss of integrity of the pose, if you could say. So, for example, if I bring my leg in tree, if I bring my leg up onto my thigh and my hip goes out or my knee's coming forward, it would be more useful to keep the leg on the ground and feel that sense of connectedness. Often what can happen if we're going to a level where we're beyond our edge, our mind starts getting like, oh shoot, I'm falling out of this. We're trying to maintain that sense of inner stillness. So finding that comfortable space, again, you can think of the edge being defined where your ability to relax intersects to the, you want to be able to have a sense of ease and comfort and not feeling like there's a struggle. Yeah, beautiful. Let's go ahead and move down toward a seated pose here. We're going to move down onto the floor, so find your way down to the mat. And as you walk the flesh off the sits bones here, just taking it back a little bit here, because you really want to feel the sits bones firmly connected down to the ground. We're taking the legs out in front of us and activating them. Feel the torso lifting out of the pelvis, crown of the head reaches to the ceiling. Stacked pose, bring the palms alongside the legs, palms facing down, fingertips facing forward, and press through those hands to give additional lift through the spine. Beautiful. Let's relax that a little bit. We're going to bend the right leg and bring the sole of the foot onto the floor. The inner side of the right ankle near the inner side of the left thigh. Need to move forward a bit here. So we're going to take a twist to both sides and with each leg in front. So to begin, we'll take the opposite arm of the bent leg, the left arm, and wrap it around either the elbow pit around the knee. If that's not available to you, you can bring the palm on to the upper shin. Feel the lift upward here. So if you notice you're doing this and your back is collapsing, maybe back up here. We still want this activation and lift, rooting through the sits bones, extending the spine upward, crown of the head. Whichever variation. Now raise the right arm up to shoulder height. Bring it around at the horizon level, at shoulder height, around toward the back until it goes no further, and then let it come down to the ground. Beautiful. Gazing over that right shoulder. Keep the forward leg active and engaged. Hug the muscles to the bone, dorsiflexion of the foot, root through the sits bones, stem through the crown of the head, opening the shoulder to the wall behind you. And then bringing the gaze back forward, raising the arm, and now bring that right arm, the same side as the knee that's bent around. And we're just going to take the left arm around. Just a little bit of a counter stretch here. And again, rooting through that back hand, lift through the spinal column, press through the sits bones. And coming back to center. So this is a variation of this pose. Sometimes you might cross the leg over top of the other one, bringing the outside of the ankle to the outside of the opposite thigh. This is a variation we may offer in a different class, and feel free to modify as feels appropriate for you. Perhaps some of you already have this in your practice and want to cross the leg over top. So as you bend the opposite knee now, sole of the foot on the floor, take the elbow pit of the opposite arm around, or again the palm. Bring the left arm, the leg that's bent, bring the same arm out in front of you. Bring it around at the horizon level toward the back of the mat until it goes no further, and then lower it down to the ground. Pressing through either the palm or tented fingers, again to give additional lift through the spinal column, gazing over the left shoulder, open the shoulder toward the wall behind you, activating that forward leg, hugging the muscles to the bone, dorsiflexion in the foot. Steadiness of mind, peace with what is as it is, acceptance, serenity, raising that left arm off the ground, bringing it back around in front, just temporarily bringing it around the left knee. Take the right arm out behind you. So this counter movement is primarily just to move the internal organs around a little bit. It can be a nice massage for the internal organs. Actually, many of the yoga poses have specific purposes, and there's one that's actually described as a wind-releasing pose, if you can imagine. So moving the organs around can actually really be useful for the digestive system. Let's bring that back arm around in front again, and we're going to take the legs out in front of us. Just shake them out a little bit. We're going to take the hands behind us, either fingertips facing backward or forward, whatever feels better for your shoulders. And then bending the knees, bring the soles of the feet onto the ground, and just gently moving them side to side. It might feel nice to take the soles of the feet to the outer edges of the mat, depending on the spaciousness in your hips. Sometimes having the feet wider apart feels more comfortable. And then we're going to come toward cobbler's pose. So if you have a tight hamstring or low back, sometimes sitting on a little bit of a block, could be a heavy book, maybe a blanket, can be useful for those of us with tight hamstrings, so feel free to do that. It's not necessary and essential, and certainly if you don't feel tightness in your hamstrings, sitting flat on the floor is ideal. We bring the soles of the feet together, and we bring the heels in toward the perineum. You'll feel some sensation in the groin, again coming to that edge. So if you get to a level that feels, oh wow, that's just too much, take the heels further away from the perineum. Root down through the sits bones. Bring the palms either onto the front of the feet near the toes or near the ankle. Wherever they are, you gently press the elbows onto the inner leg as you open the knees wider and they come closer down toward the ground. As you root down through the sits bones, you're extending the torso out of the pelvis and up. And we'll start to hinge at the hip crease to start to come forward to a point that feels comfortable. Again, you don't want to go beyond your edge. You might, again, want to bring the hands around the toes here and start to hinge at the hips, coming forward here. You're still elongating the spine out of the pelvis here. Prevent collapsing into the low back by just crunching down. It's not about how far down you come, it's about how it feels in your body. Again, this might activate more sensation in the groin. So again, you can always walk the feet further forward. Keep lifting out of the torso out of the pelvis. I think I mentioned last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, one of my teachers reminds me that rather than these being forward folds, think about them as forward extensions. Extend the spinal column as you come forward. We're going to engage the core muscles to come back upright. And now we're prepared to come down onto our backs. You can remove any block or bolster. And lowering yourself down slowly, deep core engaged muscles here, coming down onto the back. We're going to go ahead and bend the knees, soles of the feet flat on the ground, arms alongside the body. So we're coming to reclined pigeon pose. If pigeon is part of your practice, you're welcome to come onto a forward pigeon. Otherwise, I'm going to walk us through figure 4 or reclined pigeon. Cross the left leg over top of the right so that the knee is open slightly, and I'll just face in the opposite direction so you can get a perspective if you need to. Gently pressing on the inner thigh to open that hip, pressing the heel in just above the knee or toward the bottom of the quadricep. So we're opening this hip here by gently pressing on the inside of the leg. Now, if it's available to you, you can take the sole of the right foot off the ground. You can bring the hands on the opposite side of the thigh, the left leg on the left side, right hand on the right side, grab the back of the thigh. And another option is to bend the knee deeply and bring the hands to the front of the shin. Notice that the more you do this, the more sensation you're going to feel in your hip. Don't go beyond your edge. And there's then an additional option. You can either maintain resting the back of the head on the mat, or raise the head and shoulders and bring the knee toward the nose and the nose toward the knee. Again, the deeper you go, the more sensation you feel. So make sure you have that sense of ease and comfort. If you've grabbed around the front of the shin, go ahead and move the hands to the back of the thigh and straighten the leg up to the ceiling. Engage, hug the muscles to the bone, dorsiflexion in the foot, figure 4. As you bend the knee again, lower the foot to the ground, release the hands. And we'll take the left leg off the right, take the feet to the outside edges of the mat, and a little bit of windshield wipering here. Just dropping the knees one side to the other. And just pause now and center. Observe if there's any different sensation from one side to the other. Breathe. And we'll prepare for the opposite side. This time as you root down through the left foot, take the right foot off the mat, cross it over top of the left leg into a figure 4. Again, a gentle pressing on the inner thigh to open this hip. Gently, ease, peacefulness. The state of the mind is peaceful. Focus on the breath. Be here now in the present moment. I am at peace with myself as I am, the other as they are, and the world as it is. Again, meaning acceptance. I am accepting myself as I am, the other as they are, and the world as it is. Once again, you can reach the right hand between the legs, left hand to the outside of the left leg, wrap the hands behind the thigh, or bending the knee more deeply, bring the hands around the shin bone. And again, the option, keep the head on the ground or bring the knee toward the nose. If you have chosen to do full forward pigeon, make sure you're giving yourself an opportunity to come down in reclined pigeon, bringing the forehead onto the hands. For those in figure 4, go ahead and bring the hands off the shin if they're there, bring them to the back of the thigh, straighten the left leg up to the ceiling, activating the muscles, dorsiflexion of the foot. The head is resting on the ground now. And bending the knee, bring the sole of the foot back to the ground, release the hands, uncross the legs. Once more, we're going to windshield wiper the legs now. Bring the feet to the outside edges of the mat. The arms might come out toward the side, maybe T formation. Drop the knees one side to the other. Maybe bringing the head to come over the opposite shoulder from the direction the knees are falling. Really feel a lovely twist through the entire spine as you windshield wiper the legs. Beautiful. And now, staying on your back, we're going to bring the soles of the feet together. So it's a little bit like cobblers when we were sitting up, but this is reclined. So bring the soles of the feet together as you lay on your back. Again, the knees start to splay out to the side. Goddess pose, or butterfly, as some traditions call this. The arms may be alongside the body, but it can be nice to bend at the elbows and bring the palms onto the belly. Fingers might touch. As you inhale, feel the hands separating slightly. As the belly rises, as you exhale, coming together again. Another nice option is to bring the hands into a diamond shape. So you bring the thumbs and pointer finger touching, and if you're resting them on the belly, you bring the diamond just around the belly button. These opportunities to rest the hands on the body really, again, allow us to anchor into the breath and really have a sense of awareness of the breath. Often we're not thinking of our breath as just coming and going through our body, but when we take these moments of stillness and observe how the breath affects the body, increases the belly outward on an inhale. Exhale and it recedes. And just holding here a few more breaths. Check our time. Now as you bring your knees together, soles of the feet flat on the ground again, I want to do a little bit of pelvic tilting here. So observe as you tilt the pelvis toward the direction of the head, the spine's fully flush with the mat. And as you rock it away, you get this curvature into the spine. Rock the pelvis back toward the direction of the head and take the soles of the feet off the ground. So rooting down, pressing through the low back. Feel it spreading, broadening. And then if you want to, there's an option to take the legs up overhead. So reclined staff pose. So similar to the staff pose when we're seated. Perfectly fine to keep the knees bent. So the upper leg is perpendicular to the floor. The shins might be parallel to the ceiling if you take that option. If you'd like a little bit of ab work here, you can begin to lower one leg down toward the ground, bringing the heel a few inches from the ground and then bring it back up. So really deeply engaging the core muscles here. And then if you want some additional work, you might not. You can just rest with the legs up overhead. But if you want additional work, you bring the arms overhead, and then you bring the opposite arm down overhead to the ground below you as you lower the leg. A little bit of abdominal work here, just optional. Again, you can just rest with the legs bent or straight up to the ceiling. And as you bring all the limbs back in and hug the knees in toward the chest, gentle rocking side to side. Releasing the legs now. Bring the soles of the feet flat to the floor. Keep the knees hip-width apart and keep the feet directly forward. Bring the arms alongside the body, palms facing down. Fingertips are coming in the direction of the heels, perhaps grazing them. Rock the pelvis in the direction of the head so that it's fully flush. The sacrum pressing into the ground, spreading and broadening. We're preparing for a bridge pose here. Keep the bulk of the weight in the upper shoulders and the upper back and the soles of the feet. Although there's a dime-like pressure on the back of the head, avoid placing any excess pressure on the head and don't move the head to the side. Don't turn the head when we come into bridge. If you need to look, if you need to move, come out of the pose and take the weight off the head before turning the head. Pressing down through the hands, pressing down through the shoulders, the upper back and the feet. Begin to lift the hips up toward the ceiling. Also feel as if you're taking them toward the direction of the knees. This creates a long line through the front body, softening the belly. Root through the feet and lift a little bit higher. For those who practice Yoga Mudra, go ahead and move to that at this point. If that doesn't make any sense for you, you can certainly bend the arms at a 90-degree angle, fingertips up toward the ceiling. Pressing into the back of one arm, lift higher onto the shoulder head and then the opposite arm. Lift the hips high. Another option is to bring the hands under the back of the waist to help prop up the hips. If you're in Yoga Mudra, go ahead and release that. We'll roll off the shoulder heads, slowly moving down one vertebra at a time, very slowly. Engagement here in the gluteal muscles. Bringing the sacrum back down to the ground. Pause and rest here for 3 breaths, and then we'll move back into another bridge. So once again, when you're ready, knees hip-width apart, feet pressing in the ground, upper back, begin to lift the hips up toward the ceiling. Root through the feet. Also feel as if the adductor muscles are squeezing a block. Imagine you had a block in between your knees that you were squeezing. I cannot underscore the benefits of these types of weight-bearing poses for our own bone health and muscle health and joint health. When my mother had a hip replacement surgery a few years ago, this was one of the exercises she was given by a physiotherapist to start almost immediately, within a few days, to be doing what she could, within her range, several times a day. If you can imagine, to re-strengthen and reformulate muscles that had been cut through is so crucial to maintaining strength and healthy, vital, supple muscles, particularly in our hip joint. So again, if you move to Yoga Mudra or come onto the shoulder heads, release those. Once more, slowly, half that speed, begin to unfurl the vertebra one at a time down toward the mat. Softness in the belly. Engagement in the glutes. Once the sacrum reaches the ground, now lift the feet off the ground. Once more, hug the knees into the chest. We'll then take Happy Baby and Ananda Balasana. So the soles of the feet are coming up toward the ceiling. You can bring the hands, might land partway on the legs, perhaps on the inside or outside edges of the heel, or the peace fingers around the big toes. So we're looking to bring the knee toward the armpit. So you're bringing the knees down here, spreading and broadening on the low part of the back. There's an option to remain stationary here, and for some you might like to gently rock side to side. The Sanskrit name for this, Ananda Balasana, happy baby, happy child, happy baby. You think about little babies, often like on a changing table, the way they'll grab their feet. For any of you that are parents or grandparents, I'm sure you've seen this many times, usually giggling, happy baby, blissful baby, Ananda. We'll go ahead and release the legs. So we just have another minute or two left before we move to our final resting pose, Shavasana. So feel free to take the next minute and incorporate any aspect of a practice that is feeling suitable for you right now, but also listening intuitively. And if you're hearing, I'm done for today, then prepare to move to Shavasana. You might like to grab an article of clothing, a blanket, or some socks, or a sweater. We really want a sense of comfort and warmth in Shavasana. If there's any sort of chill, that can be distracting to our parasympathetic nervous system, which really is what makes Shavasana the most important pose of an asana practice, a physical movement practice. The integration of what has transpired in our practice, the incorporation into our body, and an opportunity to allow the parasympathetic nervous system to fully relax, to shift out of our sympathetic fight or flight nervous system and shift into the rest and digest. So just take another minute, either here now to finish up your physical practice, or to grab an article of clothing to feel a sense of warmth, maybe a blanket. And eventually coming onto a supine position, lying on the back. So lay down, legs stretched out in front of you, let the feet splay apart. The arms alongside the body, about 15 degrees off the body. Resting the back of the hand on the ground so the fingertips face upward here. And this predominantly is just because our fingertips are super exteroceptors, to take some of that just possible distraction away and bring the awareness inward here. The head is resting on the mat. If you notice it feels like it's collapsing back, see if you can elongate the back of the neck and rest on the occipital ridge of the skull. It also takes some pressure off the back of the head, which can be a little uncomfortable for some. So really feeling a sense of ease here. A sense of letting go, release. Scan the awareness through the body and observe if there's any area that you're holding some tightness or tension. Even our micro muscles. Even check the area around the mouth. If you're clenching the teeth or you're pressing the tongue into the roof of the mouth. And invite a greater sense of spaciousness and rest here. The micromuscles of the eyes, even those controlling the movement of the eyeball. See if there's any clenching here, and if you encounter that, just allow a sense of rest. Bringing the awareness to the third eye. Just in between the two eyebrows, a few inches into the skull. Lovely spot to focus our awareness, our attention, the concentration. There's nothing to do in Shavasana. We shift from doing to being. This is about pure existence. Connecting with your inner self. Connecting with the infinite. And with one deep breath, just bringing some awareness back to the body. Starting to reawaken the form, maybe making some small movements, some subtle gestures. Maybe wiggle the fingers and toes. Maybe rotating the wrists and ankles. And then taking the arms overhead along the ground and have a big stretch as if awakening from a sleep. And now as you bend the knees and hug them into the chest once more, grabbing the front of the shins with the hands, hugging the knees, gentle rocking side to side. Eventually rolling over to the right hand side into a fetal position, and pause here momentarily. This transition from Shavasana, which is the Sanskrit word for corpse pose, to transition into a fetal position as a reminder that every moment is a new beginning. Every instant of our life, we are reborn, is a renaissance. The past is behind us. We have an opportunity in each instant to begin anew. Stretching out the upper leg and pressing into the upper hand and bringing yourself to an upright seated position. Take a moment to get settled. And we'll close our practice in a similar fashion to which we began it. At the beginning of this practice, I shared the serenity prayer about the reminder to be at peace with those things that we have no control over. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. In alignment with that, I wanted to share a brief reading from Maston Kipp, British philosopher. If you choose to see everything as a miracle, then where you are right now is perfect. There's nowhere to run to. There's nothing else to do except be in this moment and allow what is to be. From that place of radical acceptance, major change can happen. The first step in any transformational experience is acceptance and surrender to the present moment the way that it is. From that place that we have the awareness, the humility, and the power to change what is. To close our practice, I invite you to bring your palms pressing together back to heart center, Anjali Mudra. May your heart feel full with love and kindness and compassion. May you always maintain a portion of this inwardly to yourself as you shine it and share it forward to all you encounter in any capacity. The infinite in me acknowledges and bows to the infinite in you. I know that most close their practice with namaste. In my lineage, we say Jai Bhagwan, which means may the spirit be victorious. Jai Bhagwan. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for joining. Look forward to seeing you again here Mondays at 9:30 for Gentle Flow, and again Friday at 9:30. So join me when you can. Be safe, keep well,